Now let's get back to our wall topic. So we've created all our walls. Now we'd also like to add layers. So there are two ways to add layers. You can either add the layer directly into the wall type, or you can add it as a separate element on top as well. So I'll show you the first option here. So when you select the wall, you can click on edit type, and under construction, we have the structure. Let's click on edit here. So these are the layers in the wall. So right now we have only one layer, which is our structural wall layer, and it is a structural material. So you can see this is ticked on, which means it plays a role in the structural calculation of the building. Let's create a new layer. So to create a new layer, you can click on insert here, and let's move this up. Let's change the function to finish one, and let's change the material here as well. Now, if you'd like to change the material, you have this small box here. So you can click on this box here, and these are the various materials you can select from this list. So let me search for plaster, because this is a plaster finish on the outside of our wall. Right now, we do not have a plaster material. So let's create a new material. So let's click on create and duplicate material, create new material, rename this and call this plaster dash white. Now to change the color of this material, we'll change it for now under graphics. We'll talk about appearance and identity later when we talk more about the materials window. This is just for a quick addition of a material. So let's change the color here, and let's select a white material, not completely white, about 249 or 242. That would work better. Perfect. Let's click on OK. And now you can see that we have a plaster white material on the outside. Now, if you click on OK, you have a error here. That's because we do not have a thickness for our finish here. So we need to add a thickness. And the thickness in this case is about 18 mm. So you can actually type in the value with its units and tap enter, and it would automatically translate to the project units in a Revit. Now let's click on OK, and let's click on OK again. And now you can notice that our wall has become a bit thicker. Now, if you'd like to see the actual thickness with the layers, you'll need to change the detail level in Revit. So to change the detail level, in the bottom toolbar here, next to the scale option, we have the detail level button. So when you click on this, we have three options. We have coarse, medium, and fine. Coarse means that it is not too detailed. It gives you a coarse view. Let's change the view from coarse to medium or fine. Now you can notice that the layer gets added to the exterior, but it sits inside the exterior face. And that is because we set the location line for our wall to finish face exterior. So what I will do is I will undo. Yeah, so we're back to our simple wall here. And what I need to do is, before I add the layers, I will need to change the location line for all of these walls. So to change the location line for all of these walls together, what you can do is hover over the wall and tap the tab key so that you can select all the exterior walls. So I've simply hovered over the wall and tapped the tab key and then selected the walls. And then under location line, I'm going to change it from finish face exterior to core center line. So I've changed all the walls to core center line. Now, when I select a wall, you can notice that this point here, which indicates the location line, stays right in the middle of our core wall, which is the structural wall, which is exactly what we need. And now when I add the layers, so if I go to edit type here and click on edit, I'm going to insert a new layer, move it up, change it to finish one function. And I'm going to give a thickness of 18 mm. I'm going to add a material as well. Let's create, so let's search for the material. When you undo in Revit, generally the material goes away. So you need to create the material again. And let me call this plaster white. Change the color. Click on OK. And then click on OK again. So now you can notice that it sits exactly on the outside of this wall, because we changed the location line of this wall to the core center line. Similarly, we can add the interior finish as well. Let me quickly change the detail to medium or fine so that you can see the layer. So let me change the interior finish. So let's click on edit, click on edit here again. And in the newer versions, you can duplicate layers. So click on duplicate here and move it down so that it sits below the core boundary lines. Let's give a thickness of about 12 mm. Generally, for the interior plaster, you give a thickness of 12 mm, and for the exterior, you give about 18 mm. Perfect. So let's click on OK, and let's click on OK again. And now we can notice that it sits exactly under the core layer. By the way, when you select the wall, we have the core layer, which is the structural layer, and above the core layers, we have the external layers, and below the core layers, we have the internal layers. I would also like to point out that when you select a wall, if you like to know where the external layer is and where the internal layer is, you will simply need to check where this symbol lies. If the symbol lies on the outside face, then it shows us that this is the external face. Now this symbol, when you click on the symbol, you can simply switch the external face of the wall either to the outside or to the inside. So since in our case, the external layers lay on the outside, it's a good idea to keep your symbol right on the outside, which means that our external layers here lies on the outside face of the wall. So you can see that all of these walls have their external layers on the outside. It's also important when you draw walls. For example, when I click on architecture and click on walls, the direction of how you draw the walls are important when you use finish face exterior. So for example, when I click here and go on a clockwork direction, now I need to switch on my chain as well so that I can create it as a chain. So let's switch on chain and let's go in a clockworks direction. And now you can notice that all our walls, the symbol lies on the outside. But what happens when I go in an anti-clockwise direction? The external layers now get created on the inside. So when you select the wall, you can notice that the symbol lies on the inside. So the direction of how you create walls are also very important when modeling in Revit. So to recap, we created our different layers in this video. We created our internal wall. We learned about units. We learned about how to create a material as well. And we learned about how the location line plays a very important role. So always get into the habit of using the right location line. In this case, it is the core center line. What is the difference between core center line and wall center line? When you click on edit type and click on edit here, the core center line is the middle point of our structural layer here. So that would be the core center line. And the wall center line would be the middle point from the finish till on the exterior to the finish on the interior. So that would be the midpoint of the entire wall. So we have a midpoint for the core wall, which is the structural wall, and we have a midpoint for the entire wall, which is the wall center line. In most BIM projects, it would be a good idea to center the wall to the core center line so that it lies in the center of the grid and you can add your additional layers easily as well. In the next video, we'll add our slabs and we'll work with 3D as well. So I'll see you guys next video. Cheers.